Hello, and welcome back to France Made Simple, the podcast where I demystify life in France and debunk all of those myths that surround living here. So, this morning we're talking about property shows and how to get the most out of going to one. So, obviously, looking for a house in France is really exciting. It can also be exhausting, expensive, and time consuming. And anything that you can do to minimize the costs and the strain involved is probably a good idea. Now, visiting a French property show is a really great way to get information on a large number of properties within a short space of time. You're going to be able to speak to a large number of agents, developers, and other experts, tax experts, visa experts, investments, pensions experts, you name it, they're going to be there. And there are now several shows being held throughout the year across the UK, and going to at least one, I think, is a must for anyone who's seriously considering buying a home in France. Entry costs are normally either very, very reasonable or free if you book in advance, but you will need to factor travel costs into the equation. And if you do live at some distance away, you might even want to stay overnight so that you can get the most out of the trip, especially because lots of them run over 2 days over a weekend. And, you might want to go back and chat to an agent again. So if you can factor that into the budget, I would definitely recommend planning to go for both days, even if you end up not going back on the second day. Knowing you can is a kind of luxury, and you can always, get to 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and think, oh, my feet are killing me, I'm knackered, going to go back to the hotel, go and get some dinner, we can always come back tomorrow. So, it's a commitment in terms of time and money, so it does make sense to plan your visit to get the most out of the day. So before you go, you should spend some time doing some background research. If you haven't yet decided on a particular area, try to get as much information as possible on the different regions and the types of properties that are available within those regions, within your price range. Now, often at the larger shows, tourist boards from different parts of France will have a stand or a presence. And this can be a great way to find out about more things to do and see in a particular area. But don't rely on that always being the case. Budget constraints these days mean that even tourist boards are reducing their presence at events like this. So do the online research before you go. And regional property agents will also be able to tell you more about their region. Chatting to people like this is a great way to get a feel for a region. Obviously, they're agents, they're there to sell properties, so they're not going to say, it's absolutely shit here. The Charente is full of expats and people that can't sell their properties anymore. It's run down, depressed, and there's nothing to do. They're not going to say that. And that's not true of all of the Charente, but it's certainly true of parts of the Charente. So do your research. And even if you think that you're certain the particular area is right for you, it pays to be open-minded. France is a huge country in comparison to the UK. Okay, I know for my American listeners it seems tiny, but there you go. But there may be places that you've never considered simply because you're unaware of their existence or their potential. Now, most of you are going to have at least an idea of your budget, so it makes sense to look at what you can get on average for your money in different regions. And all of this research can be done beforehand, either online, looking at advertisements in French property magazines, etc., etc. There are even sites which will give you the average square meter property price in different regions and in different towns within those regions. Now, all of this information may affect your eventual choice of region and property type. So, for example, if you've always yearned for a large house with land, there's going to be far more choice in the more isolated rural areas. However, if you need to work and earn a living then those rural areas may not be ideal. Equally, if you want to be close to one of the larger cities or the coast, prices are going to be higher, and you may well have to compromise on the property type to get the location you want. But if you've got a clear idea of the going rate for different types of properties in the areas that you're interested in, you will be far better placed to avoid anything that's overpriced and hopefully also be able to spot a bargain. And using the French website Le Bon Coin is another very good way of seeing what realistic, real property prices are like in specific areas and regions of France. And if you don't already have finances in place, now is definitely the time to think about how you're going to pay for your home. You should find that there are representatives from various mortgage lenders and individual financial advisors at a property exhibition. So if you're going to require a full or part mortgage, I would try and work out some rough figures beforehand and take any necessary information along with you. It also makes sense to create a wish list. You know me and my lists, but again, start by listing any elements that you consider essential. And just to give you a bit of an idea here, these could include things such as access to shops. Do you want a new build or a renovation project or something that's just renovated? What are transport links? The condition of the property, the location, rural, urban, coastal, the size of the property. It's all too easy to get carried away and buy something much, much bigger than you actually want or need or require. And then, of course, the price. So if you list all of these things, whether it's, and I would put it on paper rather than leaving it in your head saying, I know what I want, but it's all too easy. If you haven't got a checklist, it's all too easy to get carried away. And then you need to consider what you could be flexible about. Now, for most people, things that can be kind of, not a deal breaker include stuff like land size. Is there a massive difference between 8,000 square meters and a hectare? Can you live with that difference? Outbuildings, neighbours, the views, whether there's space for a pool or whether there indeed is already a pool installed, the interior condition of the property. Some of these will be non-negotiable for you personally, and that's fine, but you need to have, a very clear idea in your head of what you can compromise on. And then once you've got a list, you can actually even number these points in order of importance. So if having no neighbours at all is absolutely essential, stick that up as number one. If having outbuildings is your priority, that's your number one. If you'd like views, but it's not a deal breaker, that can go down to the bottom of the list. And, everybody's list is going to be different. And for some people, the view is actually the single most important factor. But other people can absolutely compromise on a nice view if the property comes with enough land or better outbuildings. And there's also what the French call the coup de cœur factor, which means that you may just absolutely fall in love with a particular property, even though it doesn't fit your criteria. But if you do have a list like this, combined with research into the areas that you think you would be happy to live in, average prices and finance options, it should give you a pretty good idea of what you'll be able to get for your money. And this allows you to then set a budget and fine tune, if you like, your property search at the show. You can disregard anything that is clearly not going to be within your criteria according to your list. Disregard stuff that's really overpriced. Disregard stuff that you just don't get that feeling for. And then maybe concentrate on properties that do fit your criteria, are reasonably priced, and you could see yourself living in. Now, most of the bigger shows publish a program of events beforehand, and this includes any seminars that are being organised, as well as listing the main agents, developers, and experts that are going to be present at the show. The seminars are usually free to attend, but you do probably need to reserve a place in advance. They tend to be very, very popular, so make sure if there's something you particularly want to attend that you book early. The seminars, I cannot recommend them highly enough. They are a great way of picking up information and tips from experts on matters you might not have even thought about, or maybe only just starting to think about, which are really, really important, such as inheritance law and tax planning. And once you've decided which seminars you'd like to go to and booked your tickets, then you can start planning the rest of your day. The range of seminars on offer normally repeats on the 2 days of the show. Very occasionally, there's only one seminar on one day, but I would definitely look at the programme and plan your day around what you definitely know you want to attend. So, planning the rest of your time at the show. If you know which regions you're interested in, you can highlight the agents that deal with those areas so that you can make a must visit kind of list. And this is really useful, and it saves you from wandering around aimlessly and being distracted by everything else that's going on at the show and getting kind of shanghaied by chatty agents who might be absolutely lovely to talk to, but they have absolutely zero properties for sale in the particular region that you're interested in. If it's a very big venue and there's a floor plan in the program, you can even work out where the agents on your hit list are located and then plan your visit accordingly. And attending these kind of shows and events can be tiring. So especially because you're really thinking about everything and really concentrating and making kind of decisions and umming and ahhing about, well, do I want this? Do I want that? Would that kind of house suit me? So it's mentally tiring. So anything that you can do to kind of save time and effort on the day itself will mean that you get more out of your visit. And I would also recommend writing a list of any questions that you have for agents or other experts, and take one large notepad with all your questions written down. And you can leave spaces to fill in any answers and make further notes. So whether that's a question about inheritance or pensions transfer or the sales process, you can get the answers that you're looking for. But, it's a really good idea to pre-write those questions, because then you won't forget to ask them. And it's really annoying when you come home at the end of the day and think, oh no, I really should have asked that. So when you arrive at the show, make sure you get a program and spend a few minutes sort of getting your bearings. Go and visit any agents or developers that you have previously noted down as, targets to visit, and see what they have to offer. Now, agents are going to be delighted to chat to you about their areas and the properties they have available. If there are any properties that look interesting, ask all of those questions on your sort of property checklist. And if the answers are all positive, ask when you might be able to view them, and make a note of this, because I would note everything, because you'll be getting so much information. It's really hard to remember. Oh, did Tracy from Agents X say we could visit that house in Jugon in March? Or was that Stacey from Agent, just write it down and then you won't forget it. And then afterwards, at the end of the day, or when you finished your visit to the property exhibition, you can then make a list of possible houses of agents and arrange a viewing trip. Now, if you find the perfect property, you may want to make an appointment to see it there and then, but it does make sense to wait until you've visited a number of agents and see what they all have to offer. As you work your way around the exhibition, mark off the agents that you've seen in your programme and put a line through any whose areas or properties are simply not relevant. If somebody's got a stand only dealing in luxury chateaux and you're looking for a small stone cottage in Brittany, don't waste time window shopping. Unless you've done everything else on the list, and then enjoy the window shopping for chateaux that you could never afford and are never going to buy, but they're nice to look at kind of thing. That's what I do. Anyway, there may be French food and drink there to be tasted, enjoyed, to be tasted and, enjoyed and savoured and, getting that whole kind of taste of France vibe. So take breaks, sit down, have something to eat and drink, and you can use your breaks to make sure you've got all the contact details for the agents you've spoken to. Put the numbers in your phone straight away so you don't lose anything or any business cards. You can write them in your notebook as well, just in case. And it's a good idea to write yourself a little reminder as to who is who. Because if you've spoken to lots of agents after the event, if you can say, I don't know, nice chap with greying hair in late 50s wearing blue suit, that will help you remember that guy was from that agency, or tall, skinny, blonde woman, very officious, didn't much like her. At least you can remember who she was. And if you don't find your dream home, don't despair. Many people spend years searching for the right property, and that's part of the fun of the process too. At least having gone to the show, you'll have a much better idea of what you'd like and what's available for your budget and in the region that you think you'd like to buy in. And once you've got this information, you can then target agents who deal with the types of properties in the types of places that you'd like to buy in, and you're going to be much better placed to carry on looking. So see it as a fact-finding mission rather than I'm definitely going to buy a property at this show. You may not. Top tips: wear comfortable shoes. And exhibition centres can often be hot. So wear layers of clothing that you can take off if you need. Lightweight is good. Take a bottle of water with you, because doing a lot of talking is going to, and that plus aircon and heating, you're going to end up wanting to drink, and there may be a queue for the bar, or it may be expensive. So have a bottle of water. Take a large tote bag for all the property details and any information sheets you pick up. Keep an eye on the time so that you don't miss out on the seminars. It's very easy to spend the entire morning thinking, right, well, at 2:00, I'm going to go and listen to tax planning in France. And then you suddenly realise it's 2:20 and the seminar's started and you've missed the first 20 minutes, even if you can then slip in at the back. Take frequent breaks during the day for a drink or a snack. Sit down, enjoy, take a breath, discuss what you've seen so far, the things that are still missing, the things that you'd like to see, like to get out of the show. And above all, don't forget to enjoy it. After all, this may well be your first step on the way to becoming a French property owner, which, for many of us is a dream come true. The nightmare part starts after you've bought it, and then you get stuck into the renovation and the French bureaucracy and paperwork and administration and etc., etc., etc. But let's not talk about the downsides now. So I hope that's been interesting, and I hope it's been informative, and I hope that if you are going to a French property show, I know there's a couple coming up in the not too distant future. I hope it's been, giving you just a bit of an overview of how the day is going to pan out and what you can get out of going to a property show. Anyway, that's it for me for this morning. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you, as always, to our sponsors, Fab French Insurance, and I will see you next time.